we should get started. We have a quorum. Miriam may show up, but we'll just see what happens on that. Okay, this is January 3rd. Happy New Year, everybody. We sure appreciate you all taking your time to be here. It does help when we can have back and forth discussions for good communications. It is now 6:02, and we will convene for the Planning and Zoning meeting. As I say, January 3rd, 2023. Dave, is there anybody that's not scheduled on the agenda that would like to speak at this time?
I don't have anything other than the email from Ron Dean, who lives in the historic district. I got his email this afternoon and put it on your desk.
Okay. And that's at 7:09? Is it 7:09?
This is regarding the project at 704 Caroline. He lives kind of behind there.
He lives at 709.
On the corner of Eugene and College.
Mm-hmm.
He lives in the house that Tommy Hauser.
Oh, yes. So basically behind, yes. Okay. All righty. So moving on to the agenda, item number 1, consideration and possible action on a recommendation to City Council for a building line encroachment. Excuse me, we're not approving minutes at this time.
We do not have minutes. We have staff on vacation.
Okay.
So we did not, the minutes weren't finished in time to make the agenda, and so
Yeah.
she'll be working on those when she gets back.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Just thought of that now. So going, as I say, possible action on recommending to City Council for a building line encroachment for Montgomery Summit Business Park Reserve B.
Under the commission, the information you had in your packet, Jonathan White is also here who can answer any concerns or questions that you have about it. To briefly summarize it, the original surveyor who placed pins, or a previous surveyor who had placed the pins for the property, did not locate those pins in the right place. They were 6 inches out of, or off of where they should be. When they did a post-construction survey, the surveyor realized, hey, these pins, something is not adding up here. And so the slab is there, the walls are, constructed to some degree. So, with that, Jonathan, is there anything else you want to point out, or any questions that you guys, want to ask?
Well, I guess just so we understand what happened, just so we hopefully don't see this happen again. But the original surveyor, I guess, is out of business?
He is, yes.
Okay.
And, Dave summarized it pretty well. So, the original plat was done by the surveyor, which is the information we've always used for everything we've done. And then the new surveyor was used to place those buildings. So when we handed off our file, that was based off the original platted survey. He went into the field to go found the pin, placed the building, and it was 6 inches off. And so backtracking, trying to figure out what had happened and what it should be, I had requested him to go back to the original parent tract documentation of all surrounding properties.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily nothing's been sold, so nothing was repinned or corrected or anything. So he was able to get that and correct it back into the field. So we didn't have an issue with that in the future with that. Sure.
So again, just to outline kind of the procedural steps, it's the P&Z's job to make a recommendation on this. This type of thing would be decided by the zoning board of adjustment. It is also the city council, so your role here this evening is to make a recommendation to them, either for or against the first one.
So this is just a correction, correct? I mean, the buildings, the building or the structures are there.
Place the rescue for the encroachment to be, approved. And so what we would do after this is, doctor have some type of document that we recorded at the county that would modify that building line, that setback line, to 6 inches less. So that way, if the property was ever sold or conveyed, and they ran the title report, a survey on it, if they saw that encroachment, there would be a document that actually modified the building line so that encroachment does not happen. We also have the approval minutes from planning, zoning, and council that are obviously approve that document, so it's just not something that was arbitrarily recorded by the county.
Okay.
So as it is right now, since the pins were incorrectly placed, the contractor, when he went to go pour the foundation, poured them off based off of the pins, doing a 10-foot setback, as was on the plat. With the pins being 6 inches off, when the pins are corrected, it's actually 9.5 feet off of the property line. And so what we're recommending is that an encroachment be approved and then offer no objection, that the developer prepare whatever kind of documentation is needed for them to file with the county to clear up title and any kind of issues that they may have on the property moving forward.
Yeah, that way everything is correct. Just have one quick question on the drawing on the, just so we fully understand, we realize this is on the side. Let's see. The rear and the side. What about up at the street on Summit Park Drive? It looks like, I guess, where we've got a 16-foot setback for utility easement to the corner of that building, I'm assuming that's 25 foot too.
Yes, I don't know specifically, but those
Yeah.
Buildings and foundations, they were actually surveyed by the original surveyors.
Yes, yes. Right.
And procedurally, what they've done so far, I think for the bank lending, is every time they go build a building, after they pour that foundation, they would go do a post-construction survey, turn it into lending for payment. So I can't speak that is for sure what happened to these buildings that have been up for many years, but I would
Sure.
assume procedurally, it happened, the same thing happened, and there was never any concerns. They just happened this time, when they went back out there.
So we'll end up with a 9.5 and a 24.5 foot buffer, yeah.
You said the pins have since been corrected.
They have been corrected.
Yeah. Appreciate the explanation. In my mind, it's nothing was intentional. It's simply something that we can understand now what happened.
One point to note, Jonathan, is in terms of, whether or not the building line, so to move the building line, would just be amending the plat.
I don't think we would want to amend the plat. I think it's a little bit more of a
Right,
process.
Right.
The surveyor had mentioned that what he's been successful doing is writing a document showing the adjustments. The building line will actually go from a 10-foot building line to a 9.5-foot building line. There's some document you would draft up. We need to be covered by the city to just review, but that would ultimately be recorded at the county clerk's office. So if titles ever ran, it would actually be pulled.
On the phone this morning, our attorney sounded like that would be, amending the plat. If we allow for the building line to be less than what's required by ordinance, then that's to do that, would be.
And if that's what ultimately, if there's more discussion on how we need to do that to make it right, obviously we're open to it. I think the first step is to get the approval of the encroachment and figuring out what to do to fix it.
Right.
If that's something the attorney's going to require, yes, we can probably produce the documents, but there are oftentimes that you either have easements or modify your documents after a plat's recorded that you can do as long as it's tied to the property inside of that legal description. That doesn't necessarily mean, because as long as it was posted after that plat, anything that would come after that platted date, you could still modify things. You could modify, I guess you could carve out a boundary, but you couldn't change a boundary line or something without a plat, but you can have the easements and make certain restrictions on property after a plat's been recorded, even though it wasn't necessarily on the plat. So I think it's something along those lines that we're shooting for, but it's something that the attorney needed to step in on. And honestly, I think it's more of a developer or owner, whatever they feel like they needed to do, because it is their property is ultimately going to be looked at upon any kind of sale.
Exactly.
And so the reserve did sell to a new developer. The Overchop don't own that reserve anymore. They're still involved in construction. But Michael Overchop is kind of assisting, getting this cleaned up, assisting for construction. So we're just trying to clean that up for them.
I have to wait for Jeff to get back.
I hope we didn't go over the water budget.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm a little dry.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay? Again, we appreciate the explanation of how that happened.
So this is not approval of like a variance. This is approval of an existing encroachment.
Correct, that was
on
the
the
attorney's
film site.
preferred method, when we talked on the phone this morning, is recommend, because you're making a recommendation to city council.
Mhm.
So your recommendation would be to approve the encroachment.
Okay.
Since the plat is correct, the pins have since been corrected, and so the attorney's opinion is that it'd be simplest to just approve encroachment on the existing setback line.
Okay.
It very well be that the minutes of the council meeting, if ultimately approved, that documentation of the approval of the encroachment by the city, that may be enough. But we can figure that out.
Well, I'll move to approve the encroachment, considering the circumstances surrounding.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion passes. And we know you know what to do next on the
Yes, sir.
paperwork. Okay, thank you. Item number 2, consideration and possible action on a recommendation to City Council on demolition of the existing house and approval of a proposed new home and garage at 704 Caroline Street in the Historic Preservation District.
Members of the commission have the information in your packet. The applicants are here to be able to talk with you about it. And like I said in the memo, this is a two-part. I think the first part is the demolition of the house. The second is the exterior modifications to the property. The subsequent item is another encroachment request from them. So we want to kind of, while they're two separate things, we're considering them at the same time. Their proposed site plan is showing 5 foot worth of side yard. The current city ordinance is 10 foot. This we changed that probably 8 or 10 years ago from 5 to 10. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind in terms of the setback. But with that, I'll turn it over to the applicants. If you guys would just like to come up to the podium and introduce yourselves and speak a little bit to the project.
We are the Selig family, and this is our son Jordan, and he's actually the owner of the home. My name's Liz Selig, and this is my husband Paul, and this is our son-in-law Brad. And we have a family construction business. We've been in home remodeling and construction for many, many years. And we're also new to Texas. We just moved here, and so. Did they have the thing that I sent to you?
Yes, so we've got the house plans, the 3D
Right.
photos.
Okay.
We've got all that.
Okay, good. So you've looked at that, you've kind of seen the direction and read a little bit about what we plan to do. The house as it stands right now is, I don't want to say it's about to fall over, but it's not in good condition at all. And so, but we love the area, that historic area. We loved Montgomery. We love the historic district of Montgomery. We love the surrounding homes and the feel of the neighborhood. We've met several of the neighbors, and we just love it there. And so we would love to make these improvements on that property and be a positive contribution to that whole neighborhood. And I've spent a lot of time studying the historic area to make sure we weren't going to do something unknowingly to something historical, and as much digging as I could find out, it doesn't look like that particular home has any significance in any way, at least none that we could find. And so that's why we're here. So I'll let you, Jordan, if you have any questions, just let us know.
Thank you. One question on the drawings, which by the way, very, very well done, and a lot of good quality stuff here. The window, this looks like there's some option on the windows, 2 different styles. As I go down after the floor plans, then there's some exterior, I'm talking about the exterior the first one on top of the three, where it shows the front and the back.
Oh, right.
Page 12, right?
Yes, yeah, page,
You're talking about the two different types of windows that you
yes,
see in it?
yes.
That was essentially just him, the architect, and I discussing different styles. I don't know if part of the historic district has limitations on the window styles, but if there are, we're totally willing to comply with any style that you guys choose for us. We do prefer the one in the middle, because it will be more open to the backyard, but again, we are totally willing to play by the rules here for the windows. That was just pure imaginary right there.
Sure.
What, should we talk about the yard first? Get that over with?
Oh, yes.
Let's take that first.
Yes, and I think, well, good point. We need to go in order. We really need to talk about the
Well, the
demolition.
demolition first, yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so we
Get
can
ahead
get
of
into more
ourselves,
detail.
though.
Yeah, okay, so, because as Dave mentioned, we want to make that motion to,
And again, that's a recommendation on the demolition, because ultimately that'll be city council who
yes,
decides on the demolition.
So that could be a separate motion right now, or,
You certainly could make a
Okay.
motion on it if you want.
that way, that's out of the way.
yep,
Yeah, I know that house has been there a while, and it's gone downhill for a while. And whatever's done, it will dress up the area. So I would like to make a recommendation to the city council to allow the demolition of the existing structure at 704 Caroline Street.
I saw on MCAN records a 1900s build, and I also saw in like the seller's disclosure when the property was sold that it was leveled in like 10 years ago, it said. So it looks like it was like a rebuild in some way.
That's.
And so I just don't find the significance of the existing structure if it
Right.
has a lot of issues.
exactly.
So I will second that motion to approve demo, or
Right.
recommend approval of demo.
Very good. We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No one's opposed. The motion passes. So that's the first part.
Yeah, we
Thank
get
you.
into the nitty-gritty.
And then now we can have discussion on the,
The 5-10 foot.
Again, if we want to move to item 3 here, and then, kind of which is the building line question, or the
Yes.
recommendation on the building line, and the discussion of the building line, then certainly that can lead into the discussion of the architectural
Exactly,
style and
okay. yeah, good. So, and we'll just ask Dave one thing, excuse me. You said it was 5 to 10 years ago when we went to the ordinance of 10 foot?
Right, I know, say, my subdivision back, 15 years ago or so, 17 years ago was 5-foot building line.
Yeah.
The other neighborhood that's just down the street here, as well as the one on Worsham, are all 5-foot building lines. Again, I don't know exactly when we changed to 10 foot, don't, have the date.
Yeah, okay.
Driving through that part of the historical, I've never looked at the side yards or the setbacks. Are typically those homes in there less than 5, or do they have the 10 foot?
It really varies based on the size.
Size of the
Very few
house.
of the homes, very few of the properties in the original, part of town like that, those aren't, none of those properties are platted.
Mm-hmm.
The structures were there before there were subdivision regulations, they were built, before any zoning regulations. So there really wasn't anything, absent, deed restrictions or something, which again wouldn't, be there until it was subdivided. So like the legal description on this is, one of those ones that reads something like, lot, such and such in town site section 2, that, again, just doesn't have an original.
In my mind, I like to try to look at the history too, and I think what happened over the years is being really part of downtown, let's call it. I mean, it's all our downtown area. typically what happens is you do, as you grow, you become more dense. And I did take a good close look around all those the streets, and a majority of homes, even the larger ones, I've noticed, there's just the 5 foot, a lot of times with a shed or a garage or whatever it is, both in the front and the back. And whether it's a small home or a large, we really have quite a mix of large and small. But the lots are so inconsistent because over the years, the things that happen. So I guess my point is, I'm not really sure when and why they went to the 10 foot, because the reality is there's a lot of stuff that's 5 foot or even less. And nobody seems to really have a problem with it.
Right, yeah, I think we need, I think what you're trying to get at is, what we need to look at is the lots, because it's not a new subdivision.
Yes.
Where we have 50, 50, 50.
Yeah.
We have an assortment of lot
Yes.
sizes up and down through there.
Yes.
The house construction, are the actual exterior walls of the two sides, those will be actually 5 foot off the property line, or you're just asking for that for a little bit more? You know what I'm saying?
The house, so when the architect looked at this, he couldn't find any building lines on record. So what he did was he just put the future house right where the old house is.
Okay.
So it would be basically in the same place.
It's going to be in the same footprint as the older house, all that?
The front part of it.
Oh, the first part.
The front part.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
All of our neighboring houses have either a large shed built right up against the fence, not even 5 feet away. So-
Right.
And we've, it is a fence, yeah. We've
Okay.
spoken to a few neighbors, and they all talk about a 5 foot setback, and a lot of them didn't even know that it was 10. So.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that shed on that property is right there anyhow.
Yes, sir.
Because if we truly had even a minimum 5 foot, then we would have 10 foot between each house, and we don't have that. I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
you know, if both were, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I know you have in there about fencing, and everybody that lives in that area seems to really want to have privacy fencing. Obviously, when you want to enjoy your backyard and have different heights, and so that may be something we talk about too. But the fence, I think the privacy fencing kind of takes care of things being close, 5 foot.
Is there the fence there, is it a wood privacy fence?
We actually have 3 different fences on every side of the lot.
Yeah.
On the left side is a large, about 10 foot tall sheet metal fence. On the back of the lot is a very short white picket fence. And then on the right side is just a standard wooden privacy fence that is probably 8 feet or 9 feet tall.
Mm-hmm. That's just there now, yeah. It's quite a mix.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I don't see a problem on the changing from 5 to 10 with the hodgepodge of the different size homes we have in that historical area. And I mean, there are some down the way that are probably 5 or even maybe a little bit closer down that way. So I don't know how your feelings are all on that.
Yeah, I feel the same way. We need to look at the existing, when it was changed, there may have been some intentions for that. Maybe there have been some issues, but
Right, it's.
the reality,
I don't recall the discussion of when we did it, but again, so like when you look at Buffalo Springs, the development agreement there, it holds, so everything in Buffalo Springs would follow the 2004, where the zoning ordinance on the books in 2004, which is a 5 foot, building lot. So basically everything in Buffalo Springs that gets built, unless the developer, decides to put in a 10-foot building line or somehow writes it into the deed restrictions, the city would only be able to enforce a 5-foot building line there. Because, again, that's what was on the books at the time, they developed it. So, but I can't say exactly when or why the 5 went to 10.
Okay. So do we need to make a motion for the 5 to 10? I mean, 10
What
to
we're
5?
gonna do is, what staff's recommendation is, consultant's recommendations are, it would be to
Approve that.
recommend to council the encroachment into the 10-foot building line. And again, what that does in the letter that we just got from the engineers, what that does if another structure's built, a pool, a backyard shop or something like that, we have to respect the 10-foot and not the 5-foot.
Okay.
Yeah, and that-
See and understand, why they're asking to do what they're doing here. But if, we keep it at 10, then that does maintain some open space and.
Yeah. And I'll just add one more thought, was simply that we're looking at a good, high-quality build here. So I think that has a lot to do with, if it's quality, the way you do it, whether it's 5-foot or 10-foot, doesn't really make much difference if you do it right. It looks like that's what we got here.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So really that goes along with the approve of the architectural part of the house then, the lot line.
So right now, let's just keep it on the lot line, and we're
Okay.
going to go back to item 2 and finish up that discussion on the exterior
Okay.
modifications.
Okay.
So this is, strictly for the encroachment into the side yard.
Okay.
I will recommend approval of the encroachment to council.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 No opposition, the motion passes. Excuse.
So now to pick back up on the exterior modifications, and in a conversation with Bill earlier today, he asked me to send the historic district guidelines over to him. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at those.
Which one?
One of the things that I did see that I'm not sure if these guys showed about, but with the garage, the proposed roof is a 2 and 12. And there is a requirement of 4 and 12 roof. Okay. At a minimum there, so it would be, so whatever you guys do, keep in mind that it would be in the context of, requiring a change to a 4 and 12.
Right. Yeah, that's right in that. I'm glad we sent that guideline over today because that helped
Yeah,
out.
for spurring me on that.
Now, is this going to be read aloud?
I'm sure read it.
If you could, this is good that we are having feedback because it helps us up here. That way it'll help the owners understand kind of where we're coming from with people in that general area. So
So I'll read this. I got this from a neighbor who lives over on College Street. He sent it to me this afternoon, and he and his wife said that they would like to voice their opinion on the proposed house at 704 that will be presented at the P&Z meeting today. They think that the proposed house will definitely be an upgrade to the lot and in turn the neighborhood. However, they do have concerns that the exterior design of the house, especially the garage, is too modern and doesn't fit in with the historic aesthetic of the buildings surrounding it. This block is cornered by 2 very old houses in excess of 100 years old, and the structure would remove some of the charm from these structures, the street, and the area in general. As the city has discussed in our NEDC meetings, ensuring that a consistent aesthetic throughout the historic district is vital to ensuring a successful future for our city and its historic center. I suggest the P&Z committee work with the lot owner and architect to come up with a design that better fits the historic aesthetic of the area, and whatever the P&Z decides, we welcome our new potential neighbors and look forward to sharing our wonderful historic town with them. Thanks, Ryan Mundine, 709 College Street. So in that context, are there specific parts of the architecture that you guys want to start
the
with?
one thing I did notice, I know the new item that was brought up about the 4 and 12 pitch on the garage. One thing I did notice, kind of glancing through this yesterday and then again today, the windows, the comment on the windows, I believe the top or the bottom is more consistent with a historical style window. Also, the exterior to me, I'm not a architectural design person, but it's busy with the ups and downs. I think we need to keep it one way or the other to meet the historical look of the rest of it, preferably horizontally than vertical. That's just my opinion on the exterior.
Are you talking about the direction of the siding?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I do want to say that the renders that you see, the realistic pictures that you're looking at, those were done by an artist online, and he took a lot of liberties in rendering that house. That's not how we envision it set in stone, so we're totally willing to be flexible with the direction of the siding, the style of the windows.
Well, you know,
stuff like
the
that.
colored pictures that are there, the blue siding, they're all vertical.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that looks nice.
Okay.
Maybe the garage or whatnot, you know, that roof line, but those windows are going to be different anyhow.
Right. To
So,
reflect the historic style, the siding would need to be the same way, which I understand, because that's how it is on the rest of the blocks.
right.
Definitely.
Good point, I agree with the busyness. My first impression was, I like both kinds of siding. The old board and batten, that's been around for forever,
Yes, sir.
the batten, and I like it, but I also like the horizontal too. So, but I think that's the key, is not have so many, not so busy, not have both, whatever y'all want to look at on that. So, but because we do have a combination of siding in the area. The only other comment as far as overall style is when we look at the new homes that have been built, like Mr. Cheatham did around Seabright, are all but one of those homes in a historic district?
So what is on Caroline Street is
Yeah.
within the historic district. What is on Shepherd Street is not in the historic district.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
So the westernmost houses over here on the side street are not, and everything you see, you know, on
Yeah.
the front's Caroline.
Yeah, and that's, and we've had no complaints. I mean, people like, they're well done. Done the big brown house on the corner of Houston and Caroline. That was another one that went up, whatever it was, 7, 8 years ago. But that, again, I think they've all done a good job with siding.
So will your architect come back with new renderings of the exterior, or how we do that?
We worked really hard on the plans for the house, and then when we felt that we had something that we were all in love with, we had those made, and we paid to have those made. So we would go back with our architect, redesign it, and we could pay for the artist to redo those renders. We like looking at them, so we might do
Yeah.
it.
I think the general concept is good with the front, the front porch, everybody loves that look. Front porch, and then in the rear, you've got a balcony.
Yeah,
Two.
it's just that front little garage.
Yeah.
Like the gentleman said in the thing, it just maybe a little too modern, but I think that can be taken care of, you know, hopefully taken care of. I mean, it is a nice looking house, very nice looking house, and that will address the area.
Yes, very much so. And this is the thing we typically see as time goes on. Usually if they have an old tear down.
What would it be to, on that garage roof, to make it a gable?
We
I know it
we
take
haven't
away-
considered a gable, so,
Pardon?
we haven't considered a gable, so we would
Yeah.
have to go back to the drawing board on that.
That's what I'm
one, but,
saying, you know, I don't know what it would, to make a pitch roof front, to make a pitch roof with a ridge and the, you know, front to back.
Yes, sir. I would like to mention also is that one of the reasons we went with these roofing styles is to keep the height of the building down. If we were to go with a gable and a 2-story garage, we just think that it would contribute to a higher house, and we were just trying to be as respectful as possible with.
You think it'd be any higher than the ridge on the main structure?
What do you think, Ed?
I don't think it would be any, if you sloped it front to back from a ridge,
Right.
I don't think it would be any, 4 and 12, if you even kept it 4 and 12, I don't believe it would be any higher than that the main part of the house.
Go with the 4 and 12, it either has to be taller wall in the front, which gives you more mass in the front, which they would rather not do,
Mhm.
or a lower ceiling in the back.
Mm-hmm.
You know what drives the 4 and 12 pitch?
Pardon?
You know what, why a 4 and 12 pitch is the minimum?
That's just what's in the,
Okay, interesting.
that's what just.
Because it's a sheet metal roof. so-
Right, I understand. But I think what they're trying to do is keep all the homes in that area looking the same. I mean, all your garages have a pitch roof, all the homes have a pitch roof. No matter if they have different areas of the house, they all have pitches.
Right. And part of the plan was to make it look like the house that's there, and that it was added on too many times, and none of the roofs are the same.
Right,
So we got the gable and then a flat roof.
right.
Pick up on that.
Right.
It's interesting, in doing the research of the architectural style, I think I included in the packet that some of the projects by Frank Lloyd Wright, and who is from the late 1800s, early 1900s, and was designing homes just like this 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, with a mix of roof styles.
Mhm.
So it looks modern to us, you know, when you look at it,
Mhm.
it just seems to be modern, but it's actually has connections to well over 100 years ago.
Right.
But having said that, that roof line, if it is something that just, we don't want to build a home that's going to stand out.
Well, that's,
You know, we don't
that's,
want to
you
build
know,
that
that's the
kind of home.
thing. We're not, you know, I was involved with an architect down in Houston in the Heights, and they tore all those single-story bungalows down and put up 3-story straight-wall buildings. You know, to me, that was a shame. And, you know, I know what the gentleman would write a letter, and I know probably what the other people that live in that area, they, you know, this is a neat concept, but it will be the only one there. You know, there's not gonna be more of these built. So, you know, it is a neat concept, but you know, like I said, it's going to be sitting by itself, sticking out because of the homes around it. That's just my feeling, how I read the letter from this gentleman, and also maybe the thoughts from other people around that, you know, did not see the pictures of this meeting.
If we did a gable roof over the garage with the same pitch as the main house, I think the ridge would probably be, just looking at this, 2 to 3 feet lower. The garage ridge would be 2 to 3 feet lower than the ridge on the main house.
The main house, okay, okay.
And I imagine you would want the same pitch, so architecture looks like. You're 8 and 12 on the house, I think.
Mhm.
Right.
And this is exactly why we wanted to have this discussion, because we're totally flexible on this on this plan,
Mhm.
and we don't want it to be the sore thumb in there.
Right.
You know, we want it to be a beautiful improvement.
All driven by that house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You know, if this wasn't, you know, in an area where, you know, the homes were expected to be tore down in the near future and new things come up like the architect I was working with in the Heights, it would be something different. But this is, those homes on either side, well, you got a single story on one side of you, but the big home to the west of you, you know, all those they're there. They're there to stay.
Well, we want this to be there first.
Yeah.
We tried with the front porch of the main house to keep the feeling of the original house with the door in the middle, flanked by equal windows,
Yeah.
instead of changing that.
No, it's a beautiful home.
Yeah.
Beautiful home.
I can recap just a few items that I've heard us talk about that we want to maybe look at again in
Mhm.
terms of the design. The rear upper windows, like the rectangular ones over the, you know, sort of the trapezoidal ones, is that fair?
Yeah, the square windows versus the big bay windows or trapezoid, yes, the standard pane windows.
And then the siding, to try and, you know, go with a single, you know,
style, single, pattern on the siding.
Mhm.
And then the 4 and 12 pitch and the gable roof on the garage. Are there
Yes.
other things that we want to,
Yeah, that's,
get them all?
those are the 3 small ones, right?
So one of the things that we'll do, and so the architectural drawings, obviously, those, will be, changed if you guys are okay. It's up to you guys in their budget on whether or not you see the 3D renderings again. If you feel like, no, if we see the architectural drawings, that's going to give us the certainty.
Mhm.
But again, that's, guidance to give them now, so they know kind of, what to expect and what to work toward to bring back.
Yeah, we don't, yeah, just the architectural drawing is all we need. We don't, at least I don't need, so, just so we know what we're getting on paper.
Jordan can make you a 3D model that you can fly.
Gotta make it big enough so when you're done with it, I can take it up on the deer leash, that'd be great.
So, and one of the things that we'll come back with, I'm going to talk with them about is kind of, on the color selection, if we come back, with a definite, scheme with names of, paint, then we can go ahead and wrap that up as well. If we don't have to come back again for color scheme. One of the things that the action tonight does, though, is it allows them to go ahead and either move forward, with the demo and kind of keep that stuff working, which was kind of the reason to try and get this in front of you guys, because it's a long way to go before, these walls are even close to coming up, or, getting ready to be, constructed, so.
Concrete driveway?
Yes, sir. Unless there's something that you would prefer.
No, no, no.
Okay.
No, that's good. I think that covers it.
Mhm.
There's no code for garage doors, I'm seeing. I'm looking through, there's no code for like garage door style, right, okay.
Whether they're, or, even the orientation of them, whether or not, like, whether they, are able to face the street, not face the street,
Okay.
or in terms of style, it would be, it's open to them now. What we see on the drawing should reflect, what they install. In other words, if it looks like a, fairly standard garage door, we'd probably have some questions if it came back and looked, radically different, and, again, kind of change that architectural style of the house in some way. So we would expect to see, generally what we're shown.
One other minor point, there's a propane tank back there now. Are y'all planning on sticking with propane, or?
We were actually planning on, I think there's a natural gas line that ends on the corner of Carolina Street, and we were hoping to extend that to the property. We talked to a couple of neighbors, and we're trying to float that their way, see if that's something that they would be interested in, so it could benefit them as well. But
Sure.
we actually talked to one of the neighbors, and he said that he's been trying to get natural gas to the church across the street, so we know that people are interested in that. So,
Yeah,
but as far as, to answer your question, as far as the propane tank goes, not an above ground tank, but maybe an underground tank if it makes financial sense.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, good luck with that. You probably would get some good agreement with others if they could, if you might lead to something for everybody.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The only other issue that'll be later on down the road is the 3 different types fences.
Right.
We would love to get some consistency on that.
Talk to them about, fencing plans and things like that, if they're gonna, propose something and work through the details of, at the end of the day, if the other fences there are on, or not on their property, basically, that they're on their neighbor's property, whether or not they, just put up a fence that's, uniform and just gives, them a look, or if they can work with the neighbors and, take down the existing fence. I used to work in Houston a lot, you'd see that, you'd have to go this, 12-inch strip in between,
Yeah.
this fence and that fence. So we can
work to kind of keep the clutter down, but again, kind of being sympathetic and, knowing what it's like to see those, three radically different, fence styles. Maybe there's a way to get something there that just, looks more uniform and.
The sheet metal fence that is between two of the properties looks very industrial.
And
That one was.
That got slipped in.
They built that.
They built it and they cut down all the shrubs, so.
City council at the time that they built it, so I know it's been, more than 4 years.
Yeah, it was kind of slipped in there real quick.
So,
One of them midnight things, so.
Well, those people have goats and some other things, so we're okay with that.
All right.
So that, I guess, we're just recommending to the, or we're
we're just
passing.
giving them, feedback
Okay.
in terms of,
Yeah.
so this will be the one piece of this that doesn't, move on to council
Mhm.
here is because we're just talking about the aesthetics
Okay.
or exterior improvements, in the historic preservation district, but this one won't go on to council. Both the encroachment and the demo of the existing structure will both go to council next week.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
All right.
And we've already covered, we covered item 3,
Mhm.
so that's good, the motion.
again, here, I feel like, staff has enough direction, or I do. I think that these guys do, you don't need
No action
need a
needed.
motion to list, each of these things. It's just, that we know that, there's not an approval of the plans as submitted. And we're going to work together to revise, the changes that we talked about. And then we'll bring those back to B and Z.
Great,
All right.
good. All right, good discussion, y'all. We sure appreciate your input and you being here to help with questions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
looking forward to it. All right, we just need one more motion, don't we?
Well, I
Oh,
got,
no, I'm sorry.
I got one question,
Yeah,
Dave.
plus inquiries. if-
Or inquiry, yeah.
We're done with the agenda, so let's move on to inquiries.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember when the owners of that house came in here to move the house, the one that they moved.
They're on Liberty Street, the seven routes.
Yeah. And I believe the last statement I asked John if he was going to clean everything up when they left.
Yeah.
They didn't clean everything up when they left. Is there anything in the ordinance or anything in the permitting part of it, if somebody is tearing a structure down and leaving, or tearing a structure down, in that permit that there's a deposit for, because now somebody's going to have to pay to clean that mess up.
Right, if we had so we don't have a moving permit.
No.
They do have to coordinate, with the police department if it's a wide load.
Mhm.
But, certainly, through our code enforcement, still have the ability to say, the tricky thing that will be here is.
They're gone.
Right, it's, but ultimately, that's what the Historic Society signs up for, as the owner of the property.
Yeah.
If their tenant left them with something that's undesirable, if they have to clean up, and that's something that they can work out, through the civil, process if they need to. Certainly as a city, we've still got, the ability to make sure that, a site is cleaned up and
Yeah.
not,
Technically, it wasn't their property, but it was their structure they were.
Said, yeah, but he was probably talking about the Historical Society, not him.
Yeah.
But that's the last thing we said was,
Are you going to clean your?
yeah, the term was smooth out the ground. But that same thing happened at the old barber shop. That stuff that was all left behind. But I did go by there also today, and there's a dumpster, and there's a bunch of, like shingles and stuff, I guess. Or they must use something underneath it. And I agree. It doesn't look, unless somebody's still planning on coming back. But there is a dumpster there.
That was what they used for their salon.
Small,
Yeah,
I'm sure it will be picked up by the dumpster company
but still, yeah.
eventually. But
There's all that wooden slats laying
Our
out.
code enforcement officer know in the morning, ask if, they can, take a look at it from their angle again to,
You know, because again, you know, regardless of, you know, whether or not, you know, it's the tenant's fault, the property owner's fault, we've still got the ability to get it cleaned up.
Right.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah, that's
And
just.
and somebody might have to get billed for it, you know, yeah.
It just kind of chuckle every time I go by it.
Yeah, it's a mess. So, yeah, maybe there's a way to at least get it done and bill somebody for it.
Right.
All right.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
We had a visitor tonight without one item, just wanted to come say hi and.
What's that? What, were you, did you have something? Oh, okay.
Learning by osmosis.
Oh, good.
Okay. Oh, checking up on us.
Maybe one day I'll have a.
Somebody's putting a spy in here.
Got his business card, so he's not a good spot.
I can help with environmental stuff if you want.